I poke bears. I don't respect no one until they come and give me 40.
A few moments later.
It was at this moment that he knew. He fucked up.
Don't make me laugh.
All right, I am 2 days late. It'll be game one this afternoon between the Golden State Warriors and the Minnesota Timberwolves. So I apologize for being hella late with this, but better late than never, right? And it's before game time, so I have enough time to wrap up the first round of series recap, and then we're on to round two. Now, before I get into this game, I definitely want to say that the Cavs-Pacers series is actually going to be a lot better than expected because I think this is not a great matchup for Cleveland, even though I think they get out of this series in 7. But I'm telling people, this is going to be a closer matchup than people think because Indiana's play style can match that of Cleveland's play style, and the fact that these dudes on the Pacers are not pushovers. Tyrese Halliburton, Miles Turner, Pascal Siakam, they could counter Donovan Mitchell, Evan Mobley, and Jared Allen. And obviously, I don't know what the hell the status is of Darius Garland with his big toe, but they definitely need him for game 2. Obviously, if the Cavaliers lose game 2, that is going to be over. And then transitioning to the Knicks Celtics series, I did not like game 1 for the Celtics at all because I've always stood by the Celtics beat you in so many ways, especially last year. But the problem is that they were way too damn 3 happy, and it cost them the game. I mean, it's just like 45 attempts. There was like some crazy ass stat. They had like 20 attempts at 3 in the quarter, or they had like 20 attempts in the quarter, and 19 of them were threes, and they attempted 60 for the game, and they made 19 of them. It's just like they ultimately lost the game. And then the Denver game 1 also started off crazy. It was like 108, 115. I'm just like, okay, OKC's going to pull away. It's not even worth checking it. And then I came home. My mom was like so ecstatic that Denver came out and won in Oklahoma City. Because it's just like, what the hell? I was like, I turned off the game, and then all of a sudden, oh man, OKC started coming back. I mean, Denver started coming back on OKC. Chet misses the 2 free throws, and Aaron Gordon hits the game winner. His second game winner of this playoffs. Is the first one obviously being that game-winning dunk against the LA Clippers. Okay, now that's out of the way. Houston, you guys had a problem. Y'all just lost your season. Y'all just saw your season lost to not necessarily Steph Curry and Jimmy Butler. Yes, of course, those are the 2 cornerstones of that team right now. Steph had 22 and 10. Jimmy had 20. But those guys started cooking in the second half. Draymond had 16. But you guys lost to one Buddy Hield, bruh. Y'all lost to Buddy Hield. Now, I'm not going to discredit Houston. They had a great season. The number 2 seed. First time in a while since they made the playoffs last time they were a top seed in the West was when James Harden was still on the squad. And now they unfortunately had to see their season end to Golden State. And one thing I liked about this series, or I liked about Game 7 by the Warriors, is that they went big. They put Looney in to match Adams. But I do think, I don't know what it was, but I think because of Buddy Hield hitting a lot of threes, it kind of made it a little harder for the Rockets to get a run out, because I think how the Rockets won games 5 and 6 was because they got so many runouts because of the inconsistencies of one Buddy Hield, the missed shots from even Steph himself and Brandon Podziemski. You know what I'm saying? Like, that is why they won those 2 games convincingly, and to an extent game 2, because they played fast. But I was watching that game 7, bro, and I was like, what the hell is this half-court offense that I'm seeing from Houston? It's like these dudes are trying to flop their way to the free throw line. Şengün especially. I like Şengün. Şengün's a beast, and he's going to grow from this series. And this is not a knock on him at all. But he was trying to play so damn much for the contact, it was starting to get annoying. And Jalen Green, I don't know what that mother effer was on, man. I do not know what he was on. But that was just terrible. He had one good game this entire that entire series. And that was game 2 when obviously Houston had their backs against the wall. And he had a good season too. 21 points, 4 rebounds, almost 5 rebounds, and almost 3.5 assists. But it's just like, come on. Like, you are like one of the cornerstones of that franchise. Or you're supposed to be. But for some reason, man, like, the water shut off for him. The water shut off. And obviously, Charles Barkley pointed this out. These dudes need to hit the weight room. These guys are getting freaking ragdolled, man. These dudes are getting ragdolled by the Warriors. And obviously, it doesn't help that they're going up against a gauntlet full of players with a lot of experience. But let's look at this. I'm looking at Jalen Green's stat line. Give me one sec. Let me expand my screen. Okay. Here we go. So, game 1, he had 7. Disgusting. Game 2, he had 38. Great. But games 3 and 4, he had 9 and 8. Think about it. His only good game, he nearly had 40. And then that was his only notable game in the series. Game 5, he was mid, but it didn't matter because the game was already out of hand at that point. Game 6, same thing. He didn't really need to be all that great, but you also got credit Fred VanVleet. You also have to credit Stevie Adams. You also have to credit, obviously, Alfred Şengün. But for some reason, I don't know, bro. I don't know why the hell the wheels fell off in Game 7. I think it's because, again, once the Warriors finally, I guess the Warriors hit shots, too. And the fact that the Rockets look so discombobulated in the half court. I think the one thing that kind of caught my eye with the Warriors in this series was once they started playing slow, it took Houston out of their rhythm. And because Houston got out of their rhythm, those guys couldn't get anything going. Like Fred VanVleet had 17, but he had like like 6 of his points came when the game was already decided. Game 6, he was phenomenal. Game 5, he was great. Game 4, he was the reason they almost won. He had 8 of 13 attempts, and he had 12 of them were threes. Yeah, 12 attempts were threes, and he made 8 of them. But it's just like, once the Warriors got up early in the game, I just knew in the back of my mind that it wasn't going to go well. It was not going to go well. Like, I think the Rockets led for a little bit, but I think the one telltale sign that I figured that was going to be the demise of the Rockets this year was that Buddy Hield half-court shot. Now, I understand the inconsistencies, and I, for one, love and hate Buddy Hield. And I remember he was like a big name in Lakers trade rumors when we were trying to trade Russell Westbrook to the Indiana Pacers for him and Miles Turner, even though obviously Buddy got traded to Philadelphia, found his way in Golden State, and obviously Miles is still part of that Pacers team that I think will give the Cavs a run for their money. Do I think they win the series? No. But that's neither here nor there. Buddy Hield started cooking. Buddy Hield started cooking. Like he had like a turnaround fadeaway jumper, which was nice. And for some reason, that dude was launching threes all over the place. This dude, Buddy Hield, bro. This dude, Buddy Hield, did not have the greatest series at all, too. Let me look up Buddy's stat line. Because he is so hit and miss. Or miss and hit, I should say. Buddy is so hit and miss. Like, good player, but it's just like the dude's so inconsistent, too. Like, I remember early to start the year, Buddy was averaging like 20 plus points. And then, obviously, he dropped off to 11. But I think, yeah, he dropped off to 11. Which, damn, that's pathetic. So, but yeah, his only good game outside of that Game 7, where he turned himself into the Immortal Buddy Hield, he joins the Immortal NBA playoff legends like Terrence Mann, Caleb Martin, Grant Williams. Everybody remembers that infamous Game 7 from Grant Williams. And then, who else? And Bobby Portis too, that run he had. But even though, Bobby's pretty consistent with that now. But yeah, Game 3, Game 3 was Buddy's second best game. And then obviously Game 4, he had 15. And then he was absolutely trash in games 5 and 6. He was absolutely terrible. And then when when the tide started to turn, Buddy Hield saved their season. Now, as for the Rockets, they're a good young team with a lot of room to grow. But I do think you should trade Jalen Green because I feel like he's going to be the one that holds the team back. If the Rockets really want to go where they need to go in the playoffs in the near future or in the future, I think they need to cut ties with Jalen because Jalen is literally holding them back from achieving what they need to achieve, and it showed in this series, bro. It showed in this series. Now I'm not gonna blame this whole series loss on Jalen Green. He was definitely like 60% of the reason why they lost because at the end of the day, it is a team. Like I don't ever want to put it on one player, but it's just like when it comes to a guy like that, his inconsistencies. It was one of the biggest reasons they could not get over the hump. They couldn't get over the hump. So I think they should cut ties with him. Get a true point guard because Fred VanVleet can only do so much because he's more of a shoot first guard. He's not a natural distributor. At least I don't think he is. You know what I mean? I've seen what he did with Toronto. But he's a playmaker by committee, not a natural playmaker. So I think if you can draft a good playmaker or sign one in free agency and have the cornerstones be guys like Tari Eason, Alfie Şengün, and maybe train Cam Whitmore too, because Cam Whitmore is such a raw, solid talent, but his attitude is why he found himself at the end of the bench, at the end of Ime Udoka's bench. And Amin Thompson too. Amin Thompson had a great game. Shout out him and his brother Asar. Those boys are freak athletes, and they have a lot of room to grow for the next few years. But yeah, Amin Thompson, Alfred Şengün, Fred VanVleet you should definitely keep. Jabari Smith should get a little more clock time, and Tari Eason as well. So it's just like, I feel like if you keep Jalen Green, it's not going to make the team any better. And I feel like they should trade him for a natural playmaker. They don't need like another scorer like a Kyrie, but maybe getting someone like a Trae Young, if anything. But then again, Trae is pretty light in the britches too. So, but I think the thing about him though is that his passing is so off the charts that it's just like even if he may pose the same type of problems that Jalen Green would bring, at least you get a more natural playmaker and a natural distributor of the ball and a guy that could get you buckets when you need him to. So, shout out the Rockets. They have a good future, but it's just like how they went out was definitely sad because I honestly thought they were actually going to pull off the comeback, but Buddy Hield and Steph Curry and Jimmy Butler all said no. So, I don't know, man. And then, obviously, getting a guy like Trae Young would help their half-court issues a lot because even in the 3 wins, there were spurts where these dudes were struggling to get something going in the half-court. Because these guys were just let's run and gun up and down. Let's have 7 seconds or less offense. Let's have everything be a fast break offense when it doesn't work in the playoffs, especially against a team like Golden State who's very experienced. And if they went up against the Minnesota T-Wolves, they would have had the same exact problem. Because Mike Conley's there, he's a natural distributor of the ball. He knows how to get guys in their spots. Anthony Edwards, and I talked about it in my video about the Pistons, where I talked about Cade Cunningham's in-game awareness and improved on his in-game awareness too. And then obviously you have Jaden and Nas and Nickeil Alexander, Shea's cousin, and then Dante Alshante DiVincenzo. So if they were to get out of this series against the Golden State Warriors, it would have been the same problems with the Minnesota T-Wolves. It would have been the same thing. So I'm actually glad in that sense that Houston lost because it gives a chance for not just Ime and his coaching staff, but the whole Rockets team to get back to the drawing board and see what they need to improve, especially in the half court. And like Charles Barkley said, some of y'all Rockets need to get in the weight room, man. Because it's just like it's like so easy to bully them. The only guy that has girth would be guys like Şengün, Adams, Dylan Brooks, and Fred VanVleet. Fred VanVleet is small, but he's stout and strong. Like he kind of like a Jalen Brunson, if you will. But I digress. Now, what do I expect from the Minnesota T-Wolves series? Obviously, I think I said it in my series recap vid talking about my Lakers where we got absolutely got the doors slammed on us in 5. Lakers in 5. This series will be more about Anthony Edwards, in my opinion. Obviously, he had a really good series against the Lakers, 26.8. Like a point down from his regular season averages, but he still played well enough. Well, he played great, obviously. I shouldn't say well enough. But I think in this next series, I think he may need to average 30 plus for the T-Wolves to have a chance. I think the reason why I don't want to say he had an average Joe series. He only had an average Joe game in Game 5, but he was able to get away with it because the Lakers are just so bad offensively, or not offensively, defensively. So it didn't matter if they were missing all those threes. They were able to get away with attempting a lot of threes because the Lakers didn't have a center, and Rudy Gobert can feast in the perimeter, feast in the paint all he wants. This could have been a 4-0 sweep in Minnesota's favor, right? So, but he had 43 in Game 4, 29 in Game 3, 29 in Game 3, 25 in Game 2, and then obviously 22 in Game 1. So I guess a bit of an average Joe series, but not really. But I think this is a series where Ant may need to average 40. Now, what about the Golden State Warriors? How could they win this series? Obviously, it would help they slowed the tempo down because I feel like what carried them in the series, because obviously Minnesota wants to play fast, but at the same time, they do have they can slow down the tempo themselves. I feel like it'll be a series where you're going to see a lot of Jimmy Butler on Anthony Edwards, Draymond on Ant, and you have Pods on Mike Conley, Steph on Mike Conley, or you probably put Steph on a guy like Jaden. Draymond could be on Randall, and then Quentin Post could be on Gobert. Something along those lines, those type of variables. So the Golden State Warriors can win this series, obviously, if their others step up. Pods and Buddy cannot be ghosts in this series. It cannot just be playoff Jimmy, playoff Steph, bail us out with every single basket. Because Minnesota can beat Minnesota's, like, their 8 players were all starters at one point. Dante DiVincenzo, who comes off the Minnesota bench, was a starter for the New York Knicks last year, and obviously he played played with Steph and Clay in the Golden State Warriors in that 2023 run where my Lakers outed them in 6 games in the conference semifinals. So the way the Warriors can beat them is obviously they might implement the strategy that the Lakers try to do, is to hunt Rudy Gobert on the perimeter. But I think the reason why it didn't work with the Lakers is because we couldn't really hunt mismatches. And every time we try to hunt mismatches, we were so slow. This is what pissed me off too. We were so slow trying to hunt mismatches that Minnesota read every play we were trying to do. And because we didn't really have a lob threat to the rim, because Jackson Hayes is just freaking terrible, man. Because we didn't have those luxuries like Luka did in Dallas, and we didn't have the guys that could hit their shots like PJ Washington, it didn't matter if we were hunting mismatches because all it was ISO, ISO, ISO. Rudy Gobert was going to keep the ball in front of him because it took them so long to hunt the mismatch. So I don't think it'll happen here. I think Golden State will be much more efficient offensively. Steph will definitely... I mean, the Warriors will not take 14 seconds off the shot clock to hunt a mismatch with only 10 seconds left. I think they'll hunt it quickly. I think Draymond will go at Rudy Gobert at times, and guys like Naz Reid. Kuminga might come in and defend Naz as well. So, but there's a lot of moving variables. But if you guys want my prediction, I'm going to pick the Timberwolves in 7 because even though I don't want to really doubt Steph or bet against Steph and Jimmy, I do like Minnesota in this series because of the fact they're a big team. And Golden State, even with Draymond and Jimmy, they can only do so much at their size and their age. And this series, you might need to bring in Kevon Looney to defend Gobert. You might need to bring in Trace Jackson Davis to defend Gobert, and Naz Reid to an extent too, and Julius Randle to an extent as well. So there's a lot of variables in this. So I have no idea what to expect. This is probably the only series where I'm just I'm not 100% sure what this series could lean towards. But I am confident enough that Minnesota will take these guys out in a game 7. But if the Warriors end up winning, I wouldn't really be surprised. So I don't know, man. This was a disappointing ending for the Houston Rockets, though. But shout out to them for having an amazing season, and shout out to the Golden State Warriors for being as resilient, because you would think being up 3-1 and all of a sudden seeing yourselves in a game 7, you would think that they would feel some type of pressure and demoralization. And they didn't. They didn't. And Houston felt the pressure because they were at home, and I think everyone expected them to complete the comeback. And then game 6, I forgot to mention, going back to the series, game 6 really annoyed me. I didn't like Steve Kerr's strategy at all, where it's just like, Şengün and Adams were going to feast. Ime was going to put those dudes in, and you didn't even bother to go big. Game 7, he finally did it, and it kind of worked to their benefit, and it also helped that the shooters for Golden State were hitting shots, like a la Buddy Hield, as you see on my screen. So yeah, they responded well. I thought Houston kind of put up some good put up a good response to adversity when it comes to not being too high or too low when it comes to the loss, because you could argue that game 6 would have been a really demoralizing loss as well, given that they were laughing on the bench in game 5. They nearly came back and yada yada yada. They took care of business, so give them credit. So I don't know. Yeah, that's pretty much it. I'm expecting a really good series between Golden State and Minnesota. Again, once more, shout out the Rockets and shout out the Warriors. They gave us a pretty good series for what it's worth. But I love playoff basketball, man. That's all I gotta say. So this is officially the end of the first round of series recap. Second round will come out soon. It won't be for like another 2 weeks or so. Thank God, low key, because it'll give me a chance to take a break. But if there's I may talk about the Shannon Sharp case, not out of fun, I shouldn't say, but just because it is something that is very interesting to me. But I probably don't want to do that as well. I want to stick to basketball. I only do non-basketball related when I really need to. You guys can see on my timeline, I've done the incidents in Uvalde, and then the incident with John Moran a couple years ago with his his strap. But yeah, I'm rambling too much. But yeah, all in all, this is gonna be a good series between Golden State and Minnesota. The Houston Rockets need to get back to the drawing board, and I was wrong to doubt Golden State's championship experience. So yeah, hope you guys enjoyed this one. This is probably I was definitely rambling for pretty much most of the vid, if not all the vid, because this came 2 days after the series, and I've been so busy with work and such, and trying to get ready for graduation. So if you guys enjoyed this video, please give it a like. And I really don't have much to say. That's the end of this video. I'm X. Deuces.